This is part 3 of our how-to series. First we answered the question, how to read theology more consistently, and then we answered the question, how to take notes while reading, and today we're answering the question, how to remember what you've read. This commenter says, I have quite a few books, but I have been kind of paralyzed in reading them because I don't want to read and forget what I've read, so I want to take notes. But it takes forever to finish my books, and I haven't been able to find a balanced and efficient way to go through them. Could you perhaps share how you read and go through so many books? Today I'm going to answer this question. I'm kind of reading this as how to remember what you've read. If you're new, let me welcome you to Petra Publications. My name is Davis, and here on this channel I mostly just review Reformed Christian books, though sometimes I do series like this where I just answer questions. And if you have any, I'd love to answer those also. Feel free to leave those in the comments section down below. Let's go ahead and dive right into this. So the first thing is, how do you remember everything you've read? You don't. You don't read books to remember everything. And this is something that really was a challenge for me, especially early on when I started reading and I wanted to remember just everything that I possibly could. But you can't. You don't. And so there's a story of Paul Washer's that he tells, and he's talking specifically about reading the scriptures. But I think it applies to reading in general. And he tells a story about a grandson and his grandfather. And the grandson was expressing to his grandfather that he couldn't remember the things he was reading. He would read the scriptures and he would forget immediately. And he said, "What's the point of reading if you don't remember?" And his grandfather said, "Well, do you see over there by the fireplace, there's a bucket, and it had been used to put the coals and the ash back in the bucket after the fire had been finished burning." And he said, "Yeah, I see it." And he said, "Well, go down to the creek, fill it with water, and bring it back." So the kid brings the bucket, he goes down the hill, fills it with water at the creek, and he runs up the hill, and it splashes out, it pours out. There are holes in the bucket, too, so it was falling out of the bottom of the bucket. And by the time he got it up the hill, there was no water in it. And he said, "This is impossible. There's no way to get water up the hill from the creek with all these holes in it." So his grandfather said, "Well, try again. See if you can do it a second time." So he goes back down, and again is unable to fill the bucket with water by the time he gets up to the top of the hill. And so his grandfather says, "Do it again." And so 2 or 3 more times, the grandson goes down to the creek, he fills it with water, and by the time he gets back up to the top of the hill, there's just nothing left in it. And he finally just gives up, and he says, "What is the point? There's no reason to do this. I'm not filling the bucket at all." And the grandfather said, "Well, look inside the bucket. It may not be full of water, but it's clean. You've cleaned the soot from the bucket." And I think that story really, it helped me anyway. I hope it helps you. That's one of Paul Washer's stories he tells a lot in his sermons. It's not about remembering everything, but the things you're not remembering are still in your mind. They're still there, and God is using them to cleanse you. If you're reading good stuff, he's using that to sanctify you and further you in your understanding of him and his word. You don't need to remember all of it. You don't read to remember all of it. But there are a couple things that can help you, such as taking notes and keeping your quote document, as we discussed in earlier videos in this series. So, for instance, when I wrote my paper for our last series here on the channel last year, What Happened to Manhood, I wrote this long paper. I used resources that I was planning to review in the series, but I also wanted to incorporate some quotes from other books that I had read that I felt like maybe fit into that category also. And instead of remembering, which is impossible, you can't remember all of them, but instead of remembering exactly where everything came from, I simply went to my quote list. I needed something on holiness or something, and I went to holiness in my quote list, and here are all these different things on holiness that I would have had no clue where they were, and so I was able to use those in my paper. So if it's trying to remember all of that, you need to write them down categorically into a document like that. That is crucial for remembering anything. It's not going to stay in your mind that way, but it'll be you've read it, it's categorized, you can return to it later. So that's very, very helpful. And then another thing would just be to pray through your reading. God is giving you the time to read. He will also be gracious in helping your mind in remembering. He is the one who provides the resources for you. He will also provide for you ways to remember what he has provided for you. And then another thing that really helps me is to have a couple things going at once. One work, this is answering the question, how do I go through so many books? If I read just a book that's 1,000 pages long, I get so discouraged. I feel like I will never finish the book. It's going to take me forever. I'm not remembering even what I read the day before. And it just gets I get very bogged down reading those larger works. So I like to have at least two things going on at once. I have a larger work that is about 1,000 pages or so, and then I have something smaller that I can complete in a week or two, because there's something about the completing of a book that encourages you to keep going. So I have some larger things, like right now I'm working through Schaff and Witherspoon. Those are my bigger volumes. And then on the side, the things that I'm reviewing here on the channel are kind of the things that I'm reading to complete something. It gives you a sense of completion and moving forward. So that's something else I recommend, is just to read multiple things at once. Have something larger, have something smaller. That helps a lot. Well, that's all I have in my notes here, so hopefully that answered your question. And if you have any questions, as I mentioned earlier, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. If this video was helpful to you, I'd welcome you to subscribe and to hit the like button on this video. Thanks so much for watching, and Lord willing, I will see you again soon. God bless. Bye.